Hey guys, Stealth here. Welcome to the War Room. Now, with the War Room of last week being pretty well received with all the military stuff that I discussed there, I'm going to do a similar yet slightly different format this week, as we're going to have a look at the invasion of Greece. This is something that I personally hadn't looked into very much. Reason is that whenever I think of the Second World War, and what we're mostly taught in Dutch high schools is Second World War, Germany, France, England, Japan, US, stuff like that is heavily focused on. What happens in Greece, Albania, let's say I'm not exactly sure if this is accurate, but the southeastern front, you really don't get that taught, or I forgot all about it. Seeing as history was one of my favorite subjects, I think the latter is quite unlikely. So we just weren't taught that. And I was doing the preparation of the War Room this week and looking at what happened in military history. And I saw December 13th, 1940, Hitler prepares for the invasion of Greece. And I was like, okay. Well, let's delve into that, shall we? Let's have a look at exactly what happened there. Now, it turns out that the war with Greece, by the Axis as a whole, started in October 1940. October 28th to be exact. That's when Italy declared war with Greece. Or declared war on Greece, I suppose I should say. The Italians, however, weren't doing very well. Greece fought back a lot harder than they expected. And I don't know what it is about the Italians in World War II, but virtually everything I read about them, or that you hear about them, is that they were just completely underperforming and that they constantly needed help. Now, I'm not sure if that is accurate, I'm not sure if that's fair, but that is pretty much the picture that I am getting from reading quite a bit about it. And you always hear about how Italian troops mucked up. I'm not sure why or how. I haven't dug into that too much, but it is definitely a curious pattern that I'm looking into. Anyway, they started the war with Greece on October 28th. And then by mid-December 1940, Greece is fighting back so damn hard that it captured a quarter of Albania. So that is the area between Greece and Italy, roughly. So at this point, the Italians need help. And who do they call? Well, they call Germany, of course. Germany, in the form of Hitler, is happy to oblige, and he prepares for the invasion in December 13th, 1940. So that's why I picked this topic for this week. Because it happened last week, only 66 years ago. 76, close enough. Anyway, Germany finally joined the war in April 1941. So they spent quite a few months prepping it. But, well, Germans tend to be pretty accurate and pretty effective at it. Or at least the Nazis used to be extremely effective at quickly taking over large portions of terrain. Which is exactly what they did. They joined the war in April 1941. And in June 1941, so that is just 2 months later, they had fully occupied Greece. Now, of course, this is in collaboration with the Italians. Yes, it's in collaboration with the Italians, and this made it so that Germany didn't do everything on its own, but they were definitely a major player on this end. So, Greece fully occupied 1941, and what was especially harsh, I suppose you could say, is that the collaborationist government, so the government that was put in power or that was helped to stay in power by by the Axis powers as a whole, I'm not going to say Germany specifically, by the Axis powers as a whole, it was forced to pay for the occupation. And they were doing this, for example, by taking resources, by taking precious materials, basically plundering and looting the company or the country, from what I've been able to gather. And well, of course, that caused a massive amount of destruction. And I was wondering if all of that destruction is still echoing into the current situation of Greece today, I mean, they had, according to the sources, they had 80% of industry destroyed, 28% of infrastructure, so think roads, railroads, 90% of their bridges had been destroyed. Now, for a country like the Netherlands, having 90% of your bridges be destroyed on an island, or a country that's basically formed up of a ton of islands, especially along the coastline, it is destructive. It is really, really crippling. I imagine that for Greece that is even more so. Especially because when I imagine Greece, I'm pretty much imagining the situation of civilization, any Civ any with an archipelago style gameplay. Where you constantly have these small islands, everything's connected by bridges, and thereby you're trying to get from point A to point B. And this is what I think is also the case for Greece. So, having 90% of your bridges destroyed and 80% of your industry, meaning that even if the war ends, you're not going to be easily capable of getting new bridges installed and just recovering your whole economy and your whole industry. I was wondering if that is actually potentially the cause of the poor situation in Greece, economically speaking, today. I haven't really been able to find any conclusive evidence to it, but I think it is connected. And initially, when I was taking history in high school, I mean, you have to. They never really explained why it was important to know what happened in history. But as I got older and as I no longer had history, so I was able to freely study any topic of my choosing, I found that I got more and more interested in history because it gets you a background of what is going on, let's say, today in a country, by looking at what happened previously. So, if they would have basically marketed the history topic as a course, saying, hey, you may think, why the hell do I need to know what happened in 1500s? Well, what happened in the 1500s is still echoed today. Similarly, what happened in 1940s in Greece is, I suppose, still echoed today. So, in that regard, I think it's very, very interesting to study history. So, in case you're still in high school, you're still taking history, and you think, what the hell is this shit? Why do I need to study this? Because it helps you understand the world as it is today. That's the way I always look at it. Anyway, back to Greece. 90% of the bridges of Greece were destroyed, and a large portion of its population was also very heavily crippled. Sources vary between 7 to 11% loss of civilian life. So not only do you lose 90% of your bridges, 80% of your industry, you also lose 10% of your population. I believe that is not as bad as it was for some of the other countries during the war, but it is definitely a massive hit to a country. And it turns out that the Nazi regime, similarly with Italy, caused, and Bulgaria, take note of that, the Bulgarians were there as well, as part of the invasion force. They inflicted all sorts of atrocities and massacres. And this caused a very, very heavy uprising of resistance groups. Apparently the resistance groups started in 1941, pretty much as soon as the war began. But later on, it grew more intense. Especially early on, the regime very heavily hit back and very heavily inflicted damage on the resistance groups. So much so that the resistance groups, well, they all but disappeared. They were very, very close to that. But they, for some or somehow, survived, and especially later on, two of them became very, very paramount. But they had completely different political aspects or political opinions. And of course, being that as it is, you're going to have infighting. And that's exactly what happened. These two resistance groups, during the war, started fighting each other. Fantastic. They started fighting each other. Not the Germans, not the Italians, each other. So it hampered their progress. And even after Greece was liberated by the Allies, it was these two groups that started the Civil War. Or at least that's what I've been able to dig up. These two groups started the Civil War. And what's more, well, maybe more painful is the right term, or more dark, is that through this Civil War, not only did Nazi collaborators, or let's say Axis collaborators, manage to escape Greece, through the Civil War, they also managed to become the ruling class of Greece. Now, this lasted for quite a while, and of course this is not the only country that had this going on, but it is definitely a painful situation to have, where you have these collaborators who were, to some extent, very, very much, how do you put this? They were also to blame for all the atrocities that the Axis powers put Greece through. And instead of getting what they deserved, instead of taking them out, they were actually turned into the ruling class. Yeah, how's that for justice? Anyway, Greece was liberated in 1944, which, because there was no Axis power anymore, or no Germans to fight, Greece then started their own civil war. And this lasted for quite a bit, but finally those Nazi, or those Axis collaborators got to power. And it also ended with Greece annexing the Dodecanese Islands on Italy. So, as a bit of a last fuck you to Italy, Greece said, okay, fine, we're taking your islands. Now, interestingly, the occupation ended on October 14th, 1944. But there were a couple of holdouts. A couple of islands, and Crete is one of them, that was named, and some others weren't. There were still some Nazi troops on Crete who just refused to surrender. They kept that town, or that island, under their own control and only gave it up sometime in 1945. So these guys actually held on to the island for a long time, and apparently it was not deemed strategically valuable enough to dedicate a lot of military resources into actually taking out the Nazi garrison that was still defending Greece. Crete. Anyway, that is military history this week. The invasion of Greece. I gotta say thank you to you guys for encouraging me to look into specific conflicts instead of looking at what happened during, let's say during the week, throughout different times in history, like I did last week. This week I found it much more interesting and much more involved than the previous week, because now I actually know a little bit more about what happened, instead of just looking at a calendar and going, okay, the Chinese officially joined the war in 1941, okay, fine. But I should have, of course, looked into exactly what was going on, and how these guys were involved, what happened in that area, and do it in a format like I did this week with Greece. Now let me know what your thoughts are, because for me it is still an experiment. I'm still trying to improve the War Room, trying to get its ratings back up. And any input or additions, any stuff that I may have missed is very much appreciated, so I can improve the next week's episode. Now, last week I did a presentation on body language, and more I'm starting to use recent day examples of body language. And one of the things that I created last week, or for the presentation for last week, is a segment from Westworld, where you could say, well, yeah, Westworld, that's nice, but it's a TV show. Yes, but there are so many facial expressions to be gained from that show. There's so many interesting fragments that I decided to take a 20-second fragment and just go through it and have a look at exactly what facial expressions there were and how people could use this. Now, I use this in a bit of a curious way, maybe. I use it as a bit of a deterrent at the start of the video, or at the start of the presentation. Where people think, ah yeah, body language, it's that same old, same old. I took a course in one of those sales courses a while ago. I know all about body language. That's something that I hear a lot. People think that they know it all. And then I go, okay, then have a look at this video. It's only 19 seconds. What expressions do you see? And they guaranteedly miss it. They have no idea what's going on. So that's when people realize the importance of body language. Because in this case, the video that I'm showing is from a show called Westworld. But it could as well be that I'm training a group of sales personnel. And these sales guys have to be able to read their clients. They have to be able to find out exactly what those persons are feeling, thinking, and how they can best sell to that crowd. So that is something that maybe deterrent isn't the right term, but I'm using that video as a bit of a wake-up call. Like, hey, you don't know everything yet. That's fine. I'm here to help. This is what you don't know. And then people get really, really interested. But it's still December, and that means that, especially here in Europe, people are wrapping up the year. Training is not important. Training is considered something that I suppose you do in January or something. I don't know, it was just a very, very quiet month for me this month, and I really hope that January picks back up, or I'm going to be in a bit of trouble. This causes me, and I also mentioned last week, to get pretty damn bored. I'm really going like, dude, okay, what do I do today? So much so that when I wake up, I don't always have a to-do list or a plan ready for the next day. Because it is so damn quiet and there's not that much to prepare for next year. At least, not that I can think of. I have my presentations ready, I have a plan ready. So, what I need are clients, but the clients currently are unavailable. And if I ask them, hey, do you have time for a meeting in January? They say, yeah, contact me in January because I don't have time right now. Yes, I know you don't have time right now. That's why I'm contacting you to link up in January. No, people's minds just aren't at it. So I was pretty bored and I decided to pick up a new game, Planet Coaster. Now, Planet Coaster is, I suppose you could call it the modern version of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Maybe that's not really doing it justice, because what I remember from Roller Coaster Tycoon 1, and that's the Roller Coaster Tycoon that I grew up with, is that you had a lot of different rides, but not so much options for decorating your park. And decorating the park was something of an afterthought. It just wasn't that important. You were there for the rides. That is the thing that you got the people into the park for. And with Planet Coaster, this is completely changed. They have a massive amount of different aspects that you can adjust to your park. They have a ton, really a metric ton of different decorations, different buildings that you can put down. And if you don't like the preset buildings, you can always build your own. Stuff like that is really, really intricate. And you can make this game as complex or as easy as you like. Because, for example, you could just set up a ride, set up a queuing line to it and an exit. Or you could go, no, you know what, I want to make a little bit of extra money, so I'm going to set up a priority line. A priority line, in case you haven't heard of it yet, is a line where you can get an extra pass for. Usually these things go for, let's say, 20 to 50% of the ticket price to the park itself. And what they give you is access to a faster queue, so you don't have to get in line for 40 minutes, but you can skip most of that and maybe wait for 10 minutes instead. You can, of course, as per the usual, build your own rides, your own roller coasters, your own everything. And this is something that I have been really enjoying doing. But not just building them, also decorating them. Because the better the decoration of your ride, the more people are willing to pay for it. And this is something that is really, really very helpful if you have a park where people don't necessarily have to pay an entry fee, but instead are paying per ride, so that they can pick and choose exactly what they want instead of paying for rides that they're never going to use. So that's something that I really, really enjoyed, or actually am enjoying. And let's use that as a bit of a bridge to Wargame. Now, no, I'm not going to have a Wargame situation in my park. They don't have any military aspects, unfortunately, so that might be a bit of a mod idea. No, Wargame, as you may have seen, the videos of Wargame have been remarkably... how do you put this? Jesus, English is hard today. There's been a surprising lack of Wargame content this week. I don't think I put up any video last week. Simply because every time I started recording I was like, ugh, this again? And Friday I decided to play a game just in order to try and get some live gameplay content, and I was just not having fun whatsoever. I was really pissed off. And then I thought, just, you know what, screw it, no Wargame today. So, in case you're wondering, where is Wargame? I'm not sure how to proceed with Wargame. On the one hand, I'm thinking I need to kick it out of the channel altogether, because I'm absolutely not having fun with it anymore. On the other hand, I'm not so naive to think that if I drop Wargame, that the channel will stay the same size. Because this channel got to where it is because of Wargame, and thereby becoming a bit of a love-hate relationship between me and Wargame. So, I don't exactly know where to go from here. It's just something I have to figure out for myself, exactly what to do, how to get there, how do I incorporate Wargame without it becoming a mandatory thing, a job. Because I want this channel to stay fun, not just for you, but for me as well, because I have to run the damn thing. And if I don't have fun with Wargame anymore, then maybe it's time to say goodbye to Wargame and switch to a different game that I can really dig into, and that is still along the, let's say, the military roots of this channel. I know that I've been doing some other games like Transport Fever, but Transport Fever is a game that I really enjoy, despite all of its flaws that it has every now and then. Look at that beautiful kill streak from the MiG-27K. It's a game that I do thoroughly enjoy. Same for Planet Coaster, but I'm not sure having Planet Coaster on the channel is in line with the expectations that you may have of the channel. So, I'm not exactly sure what to do from there. And some people keep remarking, Stealth, just play whatever you want to play, and we'll watch it. Other people commented, Stealth, what the hell is this nonsense, bring back Wargame? Where are my Wargame videos? That's what people come to this channel for. And on the one hand I'm thinking, yeah, you know what, screw, this is my channel. If I want to do other things than Wargame, then I can do so. If, however, I do so, then the channel, I'm not going to say is going to collapse, but it's going to get a lot less views and a lot less growth. So exactly where to go from here, I haven't figured out yet. That is something that I'm still thinking about and that I have to make a decision on at some point. I've really scaled Wargame back over the last few months. Multiple times considered dropping it altogether, because I simply don't enjoy it anymore. Maybe I'm oversaturated with Wargame, or through lack of playing my skills are slipping and I don't really enjoy playing it as such, because I think that I'm a decent player, and when it turns out that I just lose super heavy after super heavy and play absolutely terrible, then I think, oh, you know what, never mind, screw it. Why do I even play this game? So it's something I'm going to have to work out. I'm going to try to put up some new Wargame content this week, but if there isn't any, then this is a bit of an explanation why there is no Wargame content. Anyway, that's it for this week's War Room. Let me know what you thought about the Greece invasion history lesson. It's something that I really enjoy doing, but of course you are the target audience. You're the one listening to it. So let me know what you think of it and how you think I can improve upon it even further. And with that, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. I hope you have a good week. In case I don't get to you through another video, then have a very, very nice Christmas, which is of course going to be very, very soon. And before you know it, it'll be 2017, and we'll be thinking, damn, where did the year go? But that is something that we'll be discussing probably sometime next week. So for now, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more videos.